welcome to Trying Times. My name's Carmen. If you're new here, welcome. I hope you're doing so good. I'm so excited to have you. I'm excited to get to hang out, chill, and chat a little bit. Me, right now, I'm honestly, I feel like I say this a lot. I'm tired. My sleep's not been the greatest, and I feel like I need to prioritize getting more sleep. And in the midst of all of that, I feel like I'm also remembering how much I want to do other stuff and how much I want to do things that feel fulfilling or feel exciting or feel enriching in my life. And who would have thought making the time to do those things and also to make sure you have a proper sleep schedule sometimes can be very hard. I don't know. I feel like that's honestly one of the strangest parts of adulthood. And I feel like it becomes very easy to lose touch with the things that we once loved and maybe would do on a regular basis. I saw a TikTok actually. I feel like that's at the start of every sentence I have. But I did see a TikTok about how a lot of people tend to just do full makeup before they shower and then they take their makeup off. And basically the girl was just like, life got way too serious because I stopped doing makeup for no reason at all. And I thought that was so interesting because I hadn't realized it quite literally up until that point. That yeah, I don't just put makeup on for fun anymore. In fact, putting on makeup sometimes actually just feels like a chore. And I don't know when that switch happened, but I want to bring that back. I want to bring back putting on makeup for fun, doing things like that for fun, just because why not? Because literally we were out here doing a full look, if anything, taking up to like an hour, maybe even longer, I don't know, doing like a cut crease and all the things before showering just to take it off. Like obviously, yeah, you would take photos, but no one's really seeing it outside of you. I feel like that's so dope. I don't know. Somewhere along the line, though, I think what happens is a number of responsibilities, routines, and stress slowly push things like this into the background. And that's what I want to talk about a lot in this episode. I want to talk a lot about falling back in love with your hobbies and doing the things that you enjoy. Because I think sometimes when responsibilities, stress, and routines sometimes take the front driver's seat, which very naturally it makes sense that they would, doing the things that used to be fun or doing the things that used to make you feel alive and connected to yourself can very often take the back seat. Maybe not even the back seat, maybe they're just hanging on the back bumper. Like it's really not taking any time out to do the things that you enjoy. And that's what I want to talk about today, because I'm very guilty of this myself. So in this episode, I'm basically going to talk a little bit about what it means to rediscover the things that used to bring us joy or bring me joy, why we might lose them in the first place, and then also how returning to them can feel almost like returning to a former version of yourself. Because it is such a big part of who you are as a person. It's a big part of making life feel better and remembering that life is worth living. So yeah, that's what this episode is going to be about. But as always, I like to start with a scientific fact or a statistic of sorts. So I will start by saying that studies show that engaging in hobbies, especially creative or hands-on activities, reduce stress levels by lowering cortisol and activating the brain's reward system. That's pretty exciting. Who would have thought doing the things that we enjoy would actually in turn do good for our bodies and our minds? So research from the Journal of Occupational Health found that adults who regularly engage in hobbies report higher life satisfaction and a greater sense of identity, stability, all of that even during very stressful life phases, which I think, yeah, if it's contributing to a greater sense of identity, it's making you feel more stable in yourself, of course you're going to be able to handle a little bit more higher stress in a better way because you feel concrete in yourself, you feel grounded, and that makes the world of a difference. So just to add on to that, I will say a couple more things. Psychologists also note that many people subconsciously abandon their hobbies, kind of like what we just said, in adulthood due to role overload, which makes so much sense, whether that's role as in maybe a factor that you play in someone's life. Maybe you're a caregiver, maybe you are taking care of someone, maybe it's a job. That's obviously something that takes a lot of time and a lot of responsibility. It could be really a number of things, but due to role overload, sometimes we tend to subconsciously abandon our hobbies. And the feeling of needing to prioritize being productive, being overfulfilled versus, I guess, doing things for yourself, maybe not being fulfilled. I always look at this as the idea of having too much output, like going out and doing all these things and whatever it is that you do on a daily basis, doing your job, maybe doing things that you need to do can be output And then in turn, if you're not taking time out to have any input, then that can be like just really bad. It can be really, really bad for you. If you're not taking time to put back into yourself some of the energy that you put out, then it's very easy to abandon yourself somehow along the way. And that might sound very dramatic. And honestly, I don't care if it does, because it's true. You tend to abandon yourself somewhere along the way because you're not taking time out to prioritize yourself the same way that you're prioritizing almost everything else. So I thought that was very interesting. And one more fact that I thought was really, really fascinating out of all of this is that apparently even spending just 20 to 30 minutes on a hobby in a day can significantly improve your mood and emotional regulation. I feel like I believe in this because, again, the same thing goes for you could spend hours doing something, and if you're not taking it even just that 20 to 30 minutes to do something that you enjoy, then in turn, you're probably not going to feel great, to be honest. You're probably not going to feel fulfilled. You're probably not going to feel very good. I don't know. I'll speak to this in my own life because I have had phases where I completely abandoned things that I once loved, whether that be reading, creating. This is like a form of something that I like to do as input because it's fun to be able to sit down like this and talk and record. It's fun to be able to edit, to be able to share this, to be able to, I don't know, cut clips from this and share it to Instagram or TikTok or YouTube or whatever. I find this fun. So creating in this sense is fulfilling for me. Sometimes though, I don't have the drive to do it. Would I be lying if I said I'm excited every single time I'm like, let me sit down and do this? I would be lying if I said I was excited every single time. I think sometimes it's also coming from internalized pressures, doing whatever, again, maybe prioritizing other things. And then by the time it comes to doing the things that you want to do, you just don't have the energy. And again, creating in this sense is one thing. I used to create YouTube videos like a very long time ago. I did this on and off when I was in high school. I did this on and off when I was in university. Once I graduated from university, I was posting here and there, and I never quite was able to do it consistently because I would be focusing on other things. And that's natural. Again, it's not that like I didn't want to do it. Surely I could have kept up with it, and I miss it sometimes. There's nothing actually inherently even stopping me from doing it now, but it's just the idea of sitting down, taking the time, taking the next step. It's not really that hard, but again, when you sit and you think about all the steps, your brain will kind of talk you out of it. So again, abandoning things like that, like creating, or like I said earlier, reading or drawing, painting, baking is a big thing I love doing. There's a ton of things I love doing, and then you just start to abandon it over time and you don't really realize it. Really, honestly, all these things that felt like second nature all of a sudden are kind of just gone. And you don't really realize when it's happening all the time. You won't realize every single time when it's like slowly slipping away. You might realize in hindsight when you look back at something like a year later, a month later, whatever, how much time it's been. You'll realize after the fact. And I feel like after enough realization, after enough reflection is when you eventually might consider them again. It's when you eventually might pick them up again. And for me, I feel like when I finally turned to these things, like when I finally decided I wanted to start trying times, I was like, whoa, this is cool. It's a good mesh of, again, something I like to do. I like to create videos. And I think obviously talking is fun. There's a ton of podcasts out there. Clearly, we enjoy doing this as humans. And so I really love storytelling. I wanted to do something that could kind of connect all those things. And I landed on this. And I think being able to do something like this, and even though it's not exactly a hobby I used to have, it's a new thing I have, but being able to pick that up and have some of those old portions of a hobby I really liked come back and be able to incorporate that again in different ways feels almost a little bit nostalgic for me. It brings out excitement that I felt as a teenager, as a young adult, and again, I'm now feeling at almost 30 years old. It's fine. Still young, but it feels kind of, honestly, without sounding really dramatic and sentimental, it's going to sound sentimental. It feels kind of like reconnecting with an old friend, and it feels special. I love it, and I wouldn't change it for the world, honestly. I don't know. I feel like there's something vulnerable about returning to a hobby after years, or finding a new one that you really enjoy that maybe connects to something that you really loved before. And I feel like you can kind of ask yourself, do I still like this? am I still good at this? Why did I stop? In my instance of being creative and creating things in general, specifically video, that's very easy to ask. It's very natural to ask and be like, do I even still like this? Or is this something that I'm still good at? And why did I ever stop doing it? Why did I consider not doing this anymore? And like I said earlier, there are times where I sometimes feel tired to even sit down and record, but it's fun to do. So I have to remind myself it's something that I actually will feel better after I do versus maybe the setup of it. But I enjoy doing it like at this phase where I'm sitting down and talking to a camera. But I feel like in those moments, it's kind of like, oh God, I have those questions run through my head where I'm like, do I still like this? Am I still good at this? Why did I ever consider not doing this? Or why did I ever consider stopping myself from doing this? Really thinking about things from all perspectives, honestly. And it probably sounds overwhelming. It is. I feel like the more I've explored it though, the more I realized I didn't really like lose interest or didn't maybe lose like that passion for it or that overall joy for it. But I think I just lost the space and capacity for it. And again, naturally that happens as life is shifting. You're going through new phases and new stages and all the things. Maybe you don't have the same time that you once did, or maybe you don't have the same energy that you once did. And it makes sense. I don't know. I think maybe it's a hot take here. I feel like some people will agree though. I think adulthood has this way of convincing you that only productive things matter. And that when you're not doing things that are productive all the time, it's like a bad thing, or you're not allowed to rest if you're not productive all the time. You're not allowed to do things you enjoy if you're not productive all the time. I don't know. It's almost like a punishment. It's like a weird way of looking at it. And it's kind of become normalized. But in reality, slow and quiet joys are often the ones that keep you grounded. And I feel like it's this idea of no relaxation, productivity, go, go, go. And I'm very guilty of that too in my own life. I'm not going to sit here and preach like I have not thought that myself. I have 100%. But I just find it so interesting that it's becoming more and more normalized. And I'm happy to see that more people are starting to slowly have this conversation now across the internet about being slower or slowing down and having a different way of life and thinking of things differently. I find that honestly aspirational and I love it. I think this idea of falling back in love with a hobby is such a nice reminder for me of that, of maybe slowing down in a different way, because it's kind of like remembering a part of who you were or who you were in general before life got heavier and maybe got a little bit busier, which it's bound to. That's natural. And I think in general, that's something that we crave a lot more than we realize. And it's not something that you realize until it's happening. I always love incorporating some sort of like audience participation or research that I've done. And I came across a comment on TikTok where someone basically said, picking up my old hobbies felt like grabbing the hand of younger me and saying, I didn't forget you. That's special. That's so special. I don't know. When I read that, it made me almost a little bit sentimental because it's kind of honestly how I look at it, of my example earlier of creating video and being able to feel like I'm connecting to my teen self, my younger adult self, and my current self all at the same time. It's kind of cool and it's very special. Another person on another post I saw commented how knitting, which they hadn't touched at all since high school, became their safe ritual during a very stressful year and time in their life, not because they were good at it, but because it just helped to slow their mind down. So again, that idea of just slowing down and not necessarily feeling guilt or taking in, like that this is bad, or slowing down or resting in any way is bad. It's just allowing yourself to go through the motions of that, I think is so special. And then others mentioned, I saw like a general consensus of comments mentioning this, but others mentioned that returning to hobbies helped them reconnect with identity at a time when they felt completely disconnected from themselves. And it's true. Sometimes we get caught up in all kinds of things. It could be a relationship, it could be a job, it could be moving, it could be being in a new part of the world. And it's so easy in those instances to, I think, disconnect from yourself and be able to put something else as like the primary focus. It's natural. We all do it. But I think sometimes having those things that you love, those hobbies, those times where you can just slow down and be with yourself and do something you enjoy, is the best, and it helps you stay so grounded. And I think it's a reminder ultimately that hobbies aren't, maybe, I don't know, sometimes people say like childish or not necessary. I think this is a really great reminder that hobbies aren't childish or necessary, and that they are things that quietly anchor us back to who we are. I think I'm going to leave it on that. I feel like I just rambled so fast, so much, a million miles an hour. But I also drank quite a bit of matcha today and tea, and now I'm spiraling. And now I'm just talking real fast. I appreciate you listening to this so much. I would really love to hear more from you about what you think about this conversation in general, but more so what some hobbies are that you've enjoyed over time, what some things are that help you feel anchored to yourself, what some things are that make you feel a little more grounded, all of that stuff. I would love to hear from you about more of that. And yeah, I'd be so happy to chat more about that. So if you want to do that, please go ahead and either leave a comment wherever you're listening, or go over to Instagram at the Trying Times Podcast and leave a comment there, or send me a DM. I would love more than anything to talk about what kind of things help you slow down or make you feel more connected to yourself. I know for me, I mentioned a few of those in this episode already, but maybe you can relate, and maybe those are some things that you love too. And yeah, I would just love to chat some more. So if you want to do that, please go ahead and check out the Trying Times Instagram and let's chat. For now, I will leave you with all of this word jumble that I just shared. I appreciate you so much for listening, and we'll chat again soon, okay? Bye.